So I decided to go ahead and start tearing down this stroker engine. It was originally a Bullet 4.6 liter 2-valve engine that had been bored out and stroked to a 5 liter, and it had a spun bearing from what I could tell the noise was. So I went ahead and loosened all the oil pan bolts first by hand and broke them loose, and then I got the impact wrench out and started going at them. And I wanted to get the oil pan off and look inside. Of course I had to flip the engine upside down, and I did take off the valve covers, and the timing cover's on there loose, and I'll take it off here in a minute. But I went around and got all those out, and then lifted off the oil pan gently, and the gasket came with it there, you can see. And so we'll take a look inside. I had already drained the oil out of the engine, and it's been sitting for a little while like this. And so I went ahead and took the timing cover off here now. It was already loose. I had taken it off earlier when I wanted to inspect all the timing chains and make sure that that wasn't the issue. The HDR wheel looks good there. And so just wanted to put that aside so I could rotate the engine and see what's going on with everything in here. And so next I got the bolt to rotate the engine and gave it a few turns, and I could slowly look in there and see what was going on. It spun freely, it spun nice, nothing was locked up in the engine at all. You can see the cams and the cam gears and everything turning there. So now let's take a little look in here at what we can see. Everything was actually relatively new. Even the block had been bored out and the heads cleaned up. These are all forged ARP hardware, and connecting rods, pistons, everything very nice. New stuff in here, and everything looked pretty good. You can see the pistons look good. From what I could see on the cylinder walls, they all looked pretty clean. The oil pickup tube did look like it had some debris in it, and looking down into the oil pan, it definitely looks like there's some bearing material in there, something kind of gross, and some metal shavings, very light metal shavings. And as I looked at these connecting rod end caps, I was noticing the hardware looked good, the caps looked good on all of them, especially these back ones. But coming back forward here, this one, you can see there's definitely been some heat in there. It's changed color. And so that was very suspicious, and that was the first place I wanted to look. But looking at the oil pickup tube around the rim, I actually fished out this little chunk here of bearing material. You can see that's what it looked like to me. And there's other little pieces in there. So here's a nice shot of it, somewhat focused. So I definitely could tell there's some bearing material in there, but I couldn't see where it came from. Everything looked pretty good and everything rotated nicely, but that one end cap did have a lot of heat put through it. You could see it had changed color, so I wanted to get that out. So I had to remove the oil pickup tube and make sure that was out of the way, and I looked in it to see if I could see metal shavings or anything. But anyway, took off the ARP hardware, and here comes the cap off, and what do we have inside? We have not so bad wear there, but look at this destroyed damage here, little flakes of bearing material, and that is interesting. It moves back and forth and is actually very sharp, and that's obviously where these pieces were coming from, and I'm surprised that they got out because they're in there pretty tight, but that's what happens. So anyway, I wanted to show a little bit about how smooth the car runs and how much work I'd put into it with this new engine. Even though the new engine is bad, it's actually kind of sad because the car runs decently smooth at idle, even though it does have a knock when you rev it up. I've been wanting to emphasize how nice the interior is on this car, and it's hard to get a good picture of it. Sometimes the sun makes it too bright, sometimes the shadows don't make it look as good, so I just wanted to show this interior again and say that it's all back together. The Bluetooth works with my phone. It's really nice, and it has new carpet even though it's a little bit dirty there. But pedals, everything's really nice in this car. This is interior from a 2001 Mustang GT. And I'll show you a quick drive here with it. I'm not taking it very far in this condition. So you can definitely hear that knock, and it does get a little louder when it's warmed up. Anyway, the next thing I wanted to do though was clean up the car a little bit. You can see this is a little bit of a close-up of how the paint looks. Now I can see underneath all that oxidation there is some clean paint that'll shine up nicely. You can see I did a little bit of a piece there on the quarter panel. It shines up nice. But the car did need an overall wash and tire shine and get as much of that out as I could. And so I wanted to do a little walk around of the car here so you can see the overall condition of what it looks like and a little bit of before, because we'll see what it does before and after. I was also just finishing off idling the car on empty and running it out of gas. It had some older gas in it, and I did get a gas can ready, and I had it ready to go, and I had filled up about 5 gallons of fresh fuel for it, so I was happy that I got that done. But doors, panels, interior, everything looks really nice on this car. I'm very happy with it. So I wanted to go ahead and wash it, and I used some detergent soap and some Armor All car wash soap, and I really scrubbed it to get as much of the oxidation off as I could and make it look a lot better. And I also wanted to try some buffing compound, so I did this little section of the door so you can see how the fender looks and then how that front part of the door is. And here I want to show the front part of the door and the back part of the door, so you can see that it's not just a panel difference, it's an actual difference, that it did come out a little bit nicer there. So I think the car will shine up a lot, even though there's definitely some clear coat failure that's really bad on it. But it looks so much better all cleaned up, and especially with tire shine. Those tires are a little bit thicker than I like for the sidewall and everything, but at least they're cleaned up because they were looking like dirty truck tires. The car had been sitting for a couple of years with dirt on them, and so it looks so much better all cleaned up and dark, black, everything looking good. And as I've mentioned in other videos, these are my favorite GT wheels for this generation, so I really like those and I'm glad they're on there. So again, here's a comparison of how it looked before I washed it and scrubbed out all this oxidation and everything. Look how nasty the paint looked, but you can see there is a shine underneath there. And now this is after the wash and a little bit of compound on the door, but it's looking so much better now. It's not all streaky and gross. So the car did sit for like 3 years, like I had said. So later on you'll see the plans I have for this car and the engine and what I'm going to do with it. But also, while I'm waiting, there's plenty to do on the car with cleaning it up and some other little projects. So stay tuned for the updates on this 97 Mustang GT. And I always try to put a link to the videos of this car and its updates. And for each of my cars and the updates, I try to put links to the videos of that specific car at the end here, so you can go through and watch those if you'd like to see what the car's been through. So thanks for watching, and stay tuned for more of these updates.